the stage from the Redgate software team, Carly Meichen.
Hello, welcome. My name is Carly Meichen, and I have led the Past Data Community Summit event team this year. Tell me. Thank you. Are we all having a great time? Come on, let's get a round of applause for a fantastic day one. I'm delighted to open the stage on day two here at Past Data Community Summit. I've been a Redgater for almost 12 years now, and this is my 5th summit. So for those of you also returning, welcome back. But I know for lots of you, this is your very first time here at Summit, so a really warm welcome, and I hope you have a fabulous week, learning and meeting new people. We also have some folks joining us online for the live stream, so welcome. All right, this is day 2 here at Summit. Yesterday, we heard from Shirish Tota, VP for Operational Databases at Microsoft, telling us about new features and capabilities and some really exciting examples of AI-ready applications, as well as 74 sessions over the entire day. Now, I know it's impossible to see and hear everything, and believe it or not, we don't want to exhaust you with content, so don't worry. If you're here with us this week, Wednesday through Friday, all the general sessions are being recorded. They'll be available on demand within just a few short weeks after we wrap here in Seattle. And you have access until February next year, automatically included in your pass. But we know, attending Summit here in person, it's not just about the sessions. We're here to connect, share, and learn from this wonderful data community. Many folks fondly refer to the hallway track, and I would encourage every one of you here to take the opportunity this week to meet somebody new, head to the community zone, complete your bingo card, use it as an opportunity to break the ice with the person next to you right now. Hang out in the exhibit hall. I promise there will be so many of you with similar interests and challenges to solve this week. So what's happening today? Along with another day full of learning from our expert speakers in the session rooms, in the community zone, at the ecosystem stages, we have the Women in Technology panel happening at lunchtime. It's always a really popular session. We have the scavenger hunt. Make sure to chat to all the participating booths, get your badge scanned, and then head to the Exhibitor Help Center booth at 2:55 p.m. because you must be present to win. If you're looking for an opportunity to give back, join the Microsoft team in room 210 from 4 p.m. as they assemble grocery bags with partner charity Lifelong. But right now, you're here for the Redgate Keynote, the new database landscape, revealing shifts and charting the next horizon. When I was last here at Summit 7 years ago, I was on the Redgate booth. I was demoing SQL Compare, and I was doing a SQL Prompt Lightning talk. At Redgate, we've come a really long way since. The tools, SQL Compare, SQL Prompt, still really well loved, fundamental to where we are today. But right now, it's my absolute pleasure to be introducing the team who are behind the very latest development and innovation for end-to-end database DevOps. You're about to be the first to hear exclusive insights from the State of Database Landscape report. You're also going to see a brand new solution from Redgate in action. Now, I don't want to steal the team's thunder, but have your devices ready. We'll be running a live interactive poll using Slido. It's really easy. We'll put a QR code up on the screen. You can scan it with your phone camera to take part. For now, I am going to hand over to Ryan Booz, developer advocate with Redgate, to take it away. Please join me in welcoming Ryan to the stage.
Welcome to Past Data Summit 2023. My name is Ryan Booz. I'm a developer advocate with Redgate Software, working alongside Steve Jones and Grant Fritchie. Now, Redgate is thrilled to see you here today, and we are so excited for you to experience another day of top-notch content and community connections. Speaking of community connections, please join me in welcoming members of the PostgreSQL community to Summit this year. At Redgate, we recognize that many businesses are now using more than one database to support their business and application needs. Now, among those databases that are often selected, Postgres continues to rise to the top. And so, in acknowledgement that many of us, many of you will likely encounter more than one database over the next few years, we are thrilled that we have members of the community here to lead sessions about Postgres, to host a booth for PGUS, and to experience just a little bit of what it means to be a part of the SQL family. Now, my focus over the last 5 years has transitioned to PostgreSQL. It honestly was not by choice, but as I look back now, over all of the experiences I've had, I've really come to be very thankful for the community connections that I've found. But to tell you a little bit about how I got there, I need to give you a very brief tour of the last 19 years of my professional career. So the year was 2004. I was singing with the 4 decades, and yes, there are 4 decades represented there. And I was jumping into a new job at an independent software vendor that created utility bill management software. I spent 15 years there really learning .NET, SQL Server, and the entire Microsoft data platform. By 2018, life looked quite a bit different. I was hanging out, when I was singing with the 4 decades, I was hanging out with a lot of different people, or goats. And the new role that I was taking was really so that I could grow my skills in big data and machine learning analytics. The company that I joined was doing real-time predictive maintenance. We were ingesting real-time data from hundreds of thousands of sensors across the US and Canada. I was so excited to be able to jump in and build powerful analytics on top of SQL Server and the Microsoft data platform. But on my first day, the development team handed me a connection string to the database, and I could tell immediately that this was not a SQL Server database. I stared at the team with a little bit of confusion, and I realized we had to talk about the elephant in the room. When I questioned what was going on, the development team director, the gentleman who hired me, knew my background, knew my desires to get into the Microsoft platform more and do analytics, looked at me and said, "Oh yeah, didn't we tell you we decided to try Postgres for this new project?" I was dumbfounded. I had just invested years of my career learning how to manage SQL Server. I'd recently been attending more SQL Saturdays and past Summit. And I was finding the crowd that really was helping me to grow and learn and find ownership of a technology that I loved. But now, I had to take a step back and relearn a database I had not touched in more than 15 years. My forward progress was honestly pretty slow. I had no idea how to read an explain plan so I could tune queries. I couldn't figure out how to run a simple script with one variable just to do something. And the tooling was really hard for me to find something that I could feel productive with. to be honest, I felt really lost. As with most new endeavors, though, my first choice was to try and find a community that looked like what I was used to. And that actually hindered my ability to begin to connect with the Postgres community and learn more about the database that I was now jumping into. Thankfully, however, I was able to start to find that community as I looked for how they worked. And I was able to find people that can help me grow and learn in this new technology. As work from home during the pandemic started, and I was able to dig more and more into Postgres, which led me eventually to Timescale, a time series database built on top of Postgres because of the extensive ability to build the database with the extension framework. This allowed me to really invest time in learning about the database, about the community. And as the world opened up and we had more and more face-to-face interactions, Postgres really started to feel very alive to me. Now, one of the areas that was still a really big challenge for me was understanding how to apply the database DevOps best practices that I had been using for years in SQL Server and bring them into the Postgres space. It's a real challenge. It wasn't long before I started to see Grant Fritchie talking more and more about Postgres. So wait, here was a company that I had been using their tools for many years to help me with my SQL Server development and database DevOps practices, using tools like SQL Prompt, SQL Compare, SQL Monitor. And now, they appear to be getting into the Postgres space. I emailed Grant Fritchie, and the rest is history. Now, in my first year at Redgate, I've been able to see the teams work tirelessly to tackle many of the problems that users like you and I run into as we begin to manage more than one database. Monitoring databases across cloud vendors and on-premises, effectively and efficiently managing schema migrations in an automated fashion, unlocking velocity of developers through instant ephemeral clones and subsetted and masked data sets. What we see now at Redgate is the same challenges are existing across all of the various data platforms. And we're working hard to provide you with industry-leading tools that can help you overcome those issues. Now, to talk more about how Redgate is looking ahead to face these challenges head on, please welcome Head of Product Design, Tushita Gupta.
Thanks, Ryan. Thank you so much for sharing that wonderful personal journey. And it's very reflective of a trend we're seeing more and more, where people are opting to go for multiple database platforms beyond just SQL Server. But before I get into any of those trends, I quickly want to introduce myself. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tushita, and I'm Head of Product Design. My team and I look after the user research and design for all Redgate products. We ensure user insights, your insights, are factored into our decision-making. And because I'm so passionate about conducting research, I wanted to use this opportunity to conduct some impromptu research with all of you here today. So Carly mentioned we'll be using Slido for getting your thoughts on some key questions. So I hope you have your devices ready. Our first question for you is coming up very shortly. Today, I will be sharing insights from 3 key sources: industry reports, our own user research, where we've learned from data professionals such as yourselves, as well as the State of the Database Landscape report. This year, we heard from over 4,000 data industry professionals across 6 different continents in response to Redgate's State of the Database Landscape survey, and I'm delighted to give you a sneak preview of that here today. This is really exciting because the report isn't even public yet. It goes live early next year, but we have the rare opportunity to preview that here right now. So before we get into that, I'd like all of you to pull out your device camera for our first question. I promise it's very straightforward. So we want to hear from you live today about the diversity of your organization's database platforms. How many different platforms is your organization currently using? And when I say database platform, I mean SQL Server, Oracle, Postgres, or some other one. This is exciting. All right. So it seems that most of you are using more than one database, and that's exactly what we saw from our survey results as well. So from the 4,000 data professionals that we heard from, we realized that a massive 79% of the respondents already use a multi-platform environment. Ryan spoke about his personal journey from SQL Server to a multi-platform environment, and we're seeing similar trends in the wider industry. We are seeing a greater spread across 4 of the biggest players in the database market. Here's a report from DB Engines with the most popular databases. And as you can see, organizations are choosing to store their data in Oracle, MySQL, Postgres, as well as SQL Server. We're also seeing growing popularity of MongoDB and Snowflake databases. And as you can also notice, these 4 platforms appear to be much more prominent than the others, especially when considering that we're looking at a log scale where each step represents a 10-fold increase. For those of you whose organizations have adopted additional database platforms in the last few years, the survey results suggest differing needs, flexibility, and cost savings are the key factors driving adoption to these platforms. While the different platforms all serve different needs, we also wanted to understand how this multi-platform environment has actually affected your database management process in your organizations. And when we asked the question, the top 2 answers there indicate an increase in complexity, as well as the need for skill diversification. When we spoke to some of our customers, a recurring challenge kept emerging, this rapid acquisition of specialized skills for newer databases. The need for expertise in every database is a significant hurdle for users. This highlights the crucial role of a unifying solution of for the tools here. One of our customers said that if you don't offer a centralized solution for monitoring all types of databases, then people won't use it. And that makes sense, doesn't it? The diverse database landscape emphasizes the clear demand for a unified tool. And this is something we really want to ensure for all our users. Another key trend we're seeing in the industry right now is the move to cloud, or a hybrid of cloud and on-premise data estates. And again, we want to hear from all of you in the room, where are your organization's production databases hosted? Are they all on-prem? Are they in the cloud? Is it a combination of the two? And it's okay to just share your best guess here. All right, so most of you do already have a hybrid estate. That matches up really well with what we discovered in our survey results. So 70% of the people who responded to the survey told us that their estates are in a hybrid estate right now. So people are adding cloud to their on-premise estates. Now, we also know that there are lots of compelling reasons why organizations are moving their estates to the cloud. Scalability and flexibility, high availability, and cost efficiency are the top 3 reasons. But with all these big gains that come with having a hybrid estate, there are also some interesting new challenges a lot of you are facing. More and more people are thinking about costs and making queries more performant. One of our users said it really well when they said that finding problems with queries is very important because compute now costs money. And another user shared that cost-based optimization are now a large part of the DBA's evolving role. So the move to cloud isn't just a technology trend, it's also contributing to the evolving role and additional responsibilities for the DBA. The third theme I'd like to talk about is end-to-end database DevOps. So Carly's already mentioned it, and I'm sure you've seen it all across the summit venue right now, but I quickly want to explain what I mean by that. End-to-end database DevOps is our way to approach automation, collaboration, and continuous delivery practices throughout the entire database development lifecycle holistically. So as you can see in the diagram, everything from provisioning to treating database changes as code, all the way through to monitoring your entire estate form part of the system. It's essential to recognize that this holistic system is where the increased scale and complexity through the presence of a multi-platform environment or through the presence of hybrid estates really come into play. One tech-driven change impacting the industry right now is, of course, AI. I know we've heard some fantastic thoughts about this yesterday. And we also learned from our survey that there is some interest in the latest generation of AI tools within the context of database development. 23% or so of the respondents have started using this technology, and 40% are considering this for the future. Those of you who are already experimenting with the tools are using them for a wide range of tasks, including testing and development using database schema, generating sample data or code snippets for development or test purposes, as well as simulating different database scenarios for testing purposes. So lots of potential for different applications using AI in the entire process. When we talk about end-to-end database DevOps, we're also very aware of the industry's push to automate and increase the frequency of software releases. Shifting left is important so that teams can test and evaluate a release before it is pushed out through CI/CD automation. And as all of you know, this presents unique challenges when it comes to databases. It underscores a clear need for accurate and representative test and development data in the development cycle. Because of that, one area in particular we looked at this year is managing test data. We discovered that over half our survey respondents, 60% of us, still end up using raw production data for testing. 60%. This is shocking, especially given how compliance and security is a big part of for all of us, for developers, for DBAs, for our organizations. But if any of us have done that before, I think we can take solace from the fact that it is 60%. It's not just us. And we understand why that happens. We understand the distinct challenges faced by developers and DBAs in this realm. The uncomfortable compromise between compliance and speed. Striking the right balance here can be navigating through a maze of constraints and requirements. It's not just about meeting standards, it's also about being able to do that swiftly. We've heard from developers where they've shared that for them, testing on anything they've developed is quite laborious. So a solution for this will be saving them close to a day per week. So they're definitely pressed for time. And the DBAs recognize that. They've also explained that developers don't really need a full copy of the production database. They want to be quick, break things, and work iteratively. A customer articulated this perfectly by expressing what would be really useful here. The ability to create the test database for what you need it to be it volume or type of data. That would be really great. So clearly, all these issues reduce efficiency and create additional risk. And because of the different competing pressures, it can be hard to find a simple solution that works across every aspect of this process. And again, this is something we really want to get right for everyone. So I want to quickly reflect on the emerging themes that I've talked about today. So far, I've talked about all the different shifts we're seeing in the wider data landscape, from fragmentation across increasing number of database platforms to cloud and hybrid adoption. The growing interest in AI in the end-to-end DevOps, and some crucial areas like managing test data. Now, I'll hand it over to David Gummer, our Chief Product Officer, to delve into how Redgate can further support you in overcoming all of these challenges.
Thanks, Tushita. Okay, so before I talk about how we're responding to the trends and the factors that both Ryan and Tushita have highlighted, I wanted to zoom out a bit and set some context. And I think this quote from IDC does this really well. Highlights the huge focus globally on digital transformation and the pace and the scale that this is happening at worldwide across industries. And I'm sure that many of you are embarking on your own digital transformation journeys in your organizations. Now, Gartner take this a little bit further. They talk about highlighting what's key to success if you're going to embark on a digital transformation. And they zero in on scaling Agile and DevOps to the enterprise level, which means optimizing across a range of factors like people, process, and technology within your organization. And the rewards for businesses that get this right can be tremendous in the shape of greater efficiency, faster innovation, and better compliance. And in the 24 years that Redgate's been in business, we've seen organizations focus in on these three factors time and time again. But commonly we find a lot of organizations don't apply their transformation efforts to all the aspects of their business that they could. And in particular in software delivery, unfortunately some aspects often get left behind, the database being one of them. And like anything in life, you're only as strong as your weakest link. You only truly realize the benefits of digital transformation when that chain is complete and strong end to end. So, as data professionals, everyone in this room has an opportunity to play a really critical role in the success of your own organization's digital transformation efforts. And Redgate believes that including the database is absolutely central to success in digital transformation. And that's why we focus on what we call end-to-end database DevOps. And we see our role as being pretty straightforward. It's to enable data professionals like yourselves to play your crucial part in realizing those benefits within your organizations. And to do that, we focus in on a few areas that all feed into efficiency, innovation, and compliance. From standardizing and automating, removing manual processes, yes, of course, to save money, but also to free up time for innovation. Through making sure that our products are fit to scale across the enterprise, so you can continue to use them as you grow. And also, factoring in one of the most important aspects of the database, the data itself, helping you to ensure you can comply with ever-evolving data regulations without slowing your pace of innovation. And through being in this market for 24 years, we've gained thousands of customers. We've worked with 91 of the Fortune 100. And that's really allowed us to level up our expertise in the domain and to further improve our industry standard products. So I'll talk a little bit more about how we've been doing that in a second. But first, let's recap. What are the trends that Ryan and Tushita highlighted mean for us? So if I distill out some of the learnings from both the personal journeys from Ryan and the qualitative and quantitative insights that Tushita shared, I think there are really three themes. And the first of which is there are just some really thorny existing problems in database DevOps that the community needs help to solve. And there's some exciting new technologies that offer some new potential ways to solve those. We heard a lot in particular about test data as a strong theme. Posing real challenges of simultaneously reducing risk while delivering software with the quality and the efficiency and at the speed that your organization demands, and how hard that is to do. We also heard a little bit about AI and the huge potential that it offers to address database DevOps challenges. But as Tushita highlighted, we're really only at the beginning here, with a minority of organizations just beginning to experiment with that in the enterprise. So that's the first theme that we need to address. The second one, of course, is cross-database. So as we saw earlier, more and more of us are going cross-database at both an organizational level and personally. And those thorny database DevOps problems, they remain fundamentally the same. But with more and more people tackling them across more database platforms, it just introduces a new level of complexity, particularly if you have to adapt to new tools while you're doing it. So this is really the second strand that we need to address. And then thirdly, there we go. Cloud. So cloud, as I'm sure everyone in the room knows, cloud brings some tremendous new benefits, but also some new challenges. Tushita highlighted the focus on cost control and the changing role of data professionals. Now there's greater influence over the cost of compute in a cloud world. And given that the majority are now running hybrid estates, this is clearly the third important strand for us to address. So how does Redgate think about our product choices when we're trying to tackle these factors? Well, we have a pretty simple, clear mission that we use to guide our product decisions, and it's this. Redgate makes ingeniously simple software to help data professionals like all of you get the most value out of any database, anywhere. Now, we introduced this mission here at Summit last year, and the any database, anywhere part was new, was a shift in strategy for Redgate, a company that historically is focused on the Microsoft data platform. And this mission's continued to guide our product choices, and we're really excited to share some of the progress that we're making with you. So I'm going to unpack this, the three important chunks of that mission, getting the most value out of any database, anywhere, in turn. But to be controversial, I'm going to start in the center. So I'm going to start with any database. So we said at Summit last year that Redgate was going cross-database. Well, Redgate now is cross-database. So in Flyway, our database versioning and automation solution, we're really excited to have added support for advanced features for MySQL. So Flyway now provides those advanced capabilities for all of MySQL, as well as SQL Server, Postgres, and Oracle. And Flyway covers more than 50 databases, enabling standardization in your toolchain across the database platforms in your estate. Similarly, with monitoring, we've added support for Postgres in SQL Monitor, so now providing a single pane of glass to monitor a mixed database estate. So Redgate's helping our current customers on their cross-database journeys, as well as supporting users on Postgres and other databases who are new to us. And then thirdly, getting the most value. And here, of course, we've been making improvements across the entire portfolio. You'll be thrilled to hear I've been told I can't stand up here all morning and try and give you a comprehensive run-through. So I'm going to focus in on two areas which I think are going to be particularly interesting and exciting for the Summit audience. The first is in SQL Prompt. So I know that many of you in the room will know and use and love SQL Prompt. So just imagine for a second if SQL Prompt was even better. Well, you don't have to imagine, because SQL Prompt now is even better. We've augmented SQL Prompt with AI, so bringing AI into SSMS through SQL Prompt, making it an even more powerful partner for your database development. And we've done that by combining the context from SQL Prompt with the power of a large language model. Now, we just launched this earlier this month in an early access program, and I have to say the initial response from users has been fantastic. And with thousands more on the wait list, we can see this is something which is clearly resonating and filling a need with the community. It's also a concrete example of how Redgate will help you to leverage the power of AI in your database DevOps. So that's the first strand. The second piece that I wanted to talk about is around test data. So Tushita highlighted some of the challenges in test data that many organizations are really wrestling with and struggling with. She talked about the high proportion of people who are using raw production data in testing because it's hard, right? Because it's hard to simultaneously meet those demands for reduced risk while delivering software quickly, efficiently, with high quality, and a great developer experience. So at Redgate, we spent a lot of time working on this problem, thinking about how can we help to make this easier? And I've got some big news to share with you. So I'm delighted to announce here at Past Summit with all of you the launch of an entirely new solution, Redgate Test Data Manager. Thank you, we're excited too. TDM's a game changer. It simplifies the delivery of reliable, high-quality test data, enabling you to simultaneously meet those demands for reduced risk while delivering software efficiently, quickly, with high quality. And it's available now, generally available now. So what does it do? Well, it combines a range of powerful capabilities from classification and masking through to cloning, subsetting, and data generation, all in one simple, well-orchestrated workflow. We can't wait to show it to you. Now, of course, in keeping with our any database, anywhere vision, of course TDM has been designed for a hybrid world. So of course it'll run in any major cloud provider. And it includes managed Kubernetes support for cloning in both Azure and AWS. And of course, TDM has been built from the ground up to be cross-database. So SQL Server, Postgres, Oracle, MySQL, all supported. We're really excited to show you how end-to-end database DevOps, including Test Data Manager, can help you transform your organizations. And to do that, I'm delighted to welcome to the stage Senior Product Manager Stephanie Herr, who's going to take us through it. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, David. My name is Stephanie Herr, and I'm so excited to be here today. I've been with Redgate for almost 15 years, and it has really changed a lot during that time. But I wanted to start by telling you an experience about one of my first jobs out of university. I was a software developer, and I was working on a team that didn't have any database development experience within the team. So I started doing the database work. It was a very large organization, and we were using SQL Server 2000 at the time. This was before a lot of people had heard of Agile or DevOps. It was a greenfield project, so it was so exciting being able to develop something completely from scratch. You know, we could create it all by ourselves. But it was also really challenging because there was a lot of unknowns and a lot of big technical architectural decisions that needed to be made. We were creating an employee management system. Our organization was a matrix organization where different employees were assigned to different jobs. So our database had to track those employees and what skills they had. We had to track which jobs were available and what skills were needed. And then we would do our best to recommend employees for jobs based on those skill sets and availability. A lot of the business logic for matching algorithms was in the stored procedures in the database. The plan was to pull employee information from our production system on a nightly basis. But since this was a greenfield project and I wasn't a DBA, that meant I didn't have access to the production database. That's a good thing, right? Brand new out of school, not a DBA, I did not have access to production. So what did I do? On our development system, I added an employee table. I created an ID, a primary key, that was not the social security number. I read about database normalization. I was really happy about the design I made. And then we needed some data. So what did I do? I actually hand-populated my name and the name of my 4 other colleagues. And that was our data set that we were developing against. Yeah, not a very good idea. Remember, I was working for a large organization. By the time the project started, and by the time of our first release, we were actually acquired by another company. Our number of active employees more than doubled. 160,000 active employees in our production system. 5 in my development system. Needless to say, the sample data wasn't a good representation. But it worked fine on my machine, so we were ready. Let's do the V1 release. I remember it was 9 p.m. on a Thursday night, because I was in the East Coast office and we had to wait till our California offices was closed. I emailed the script to our production DBA. He opened it in SSMS, clicked F5, and it executed. The script ran successfully. We were celebrating. Version 1 was released. Until the next day. The next day, the complaints started coming in. The performance made the system pretty much unusable. I learned the hard way. If my organization had good practices in place, especially for new starters, to get their hands on realistic test data to work against early in the development lifecycle, if my organization had a way to access that safely, keeping production data safe, could this problem have been avoided? And that's why I'm so excited to be a part of Redgate. We've been talking about database DevOps for a lot. And today, with the introduction of Test Data Manager, we're making that process even more complete. Being able to give you an experience to shift left and find your problem sooner, and have a reliable, repeatable deployment process, all while keeping your production data safe. How many of you recognize this? See a few hands. SQL Monitor? This is SQL Monitor, our single pane of glass to monitor your servers and understand at a glance if there's any issues. As David was mentioning earlier, any database, anywhere. This works for SQL Server on-premise, SQL Server on the cloud, SQL Server on Linux, and earlier this year, we released support for Postgres. Today, we're going to take a look at that top left database, the Past Data Community Summit database. If we drill in, we can see on the timeline, something happened. This isn't looking good. And Monitor is automatically highlighting with our Flyway release system that a deployment happened. And this seems to have caused a spike in our DTU. We can actually drill into what happened in that release. At a glance, we can see that one object has been added. Here's this new stored procedure, and we can see exactly what is going on. If we jump back to SQL Monitor, we can see, you know what? I think that stored procedure is causing this issue. Let's drill down. SQL Monitor is showing our most impactful queries. And our first query is that exact text from that stored procedure. I think we found the issue. With SQL Monitor, we can actually drill into that query. We can see the actual plan used for that query, and also get recommendations of how to fix that problem. So let's take a step back. So far, we've been using SQL Monitor. We noticed a performance issue. And now, we want to make sure our developers have a realistic data set to work against. This is where our Test Data Manager solution comes in. Test Data Manager is all about simplifying your workflows and reducing that risk by being able to provision copies of production databases in seconds with minimal disk space, all while keeping your production data safe. So let's go ahead. Let's create a new image for our developers to work against. When creating this new image, we have the option to replace all the data or just the sensitive data. Test Data Manager is automatically scanning your schema to recognize any columns that potentially have personally identifiable information, PII data. We can also choose to subset that data, taking a terabyte of production and making it 1 gigabyte or 10 gigabytes in just a click of a button. And all of this can be customized. Again, so exciting that Redgate is now cross-database. SQL Server, Oracle, Postgres, and MySQL today as of general availability. We'll go ahead and click SQL Server, and all we have to do is give our image a name. This is the name of our image that all of the clones are going to be based on. We then provide it a backup location to the production database. And let's quickly preview what Test Data Manager is going to do. So we'll give it a connection string. And we can see that Test Data Manager now is scanning our schema. It's going to recommend any columns it finds that it thinks is PII. And in a few seconds, without needing to do anything else except giving it a connection string, Test Data Manager has automatically identified first name, last name, email addresses, telephone numbers, all as sensitive data, and provided a masking plan for you. This can also be customized if you need to create more information. And it's all available to run via command line, so it can be automated as part of an ongoing process. So our image is now created. From here, it's really simple for developers to self-serve and create as many copies of that database, we call them clones, as needed. And these clones will interact with in SQL Server Management Studio just like any other database. So we'll give our clone a name. And again, in seconds, with minimal disk space, we have a new database to work against with that realistic test data. Let's go ahead and copy that connection string and open this database in SSMS. I still use SSMS. So we're just going to connect to that database. Again, we can interact with this like it's any other database. We'll drill in to our past Data Summit database and find that stored procedure that was causing a problem. So from here, let's highlight that query, and let's simply ask SQL prompt with our new artificial intelligence assistants to help us improve the performance of this query. This is using Redgate's technology and knowledge of databases along with artificial intelligence to recommend improvements of how this query can perform better. It's giving us a lot of information about not using Windows functions and using inner joins instead of outer joins. This can make developer productivity such a difference. We're happy with these changes, so let's go ahead and select them. Now, we can execute that stored procedure against our development database. Once it's executed, let's go ahead and run that stored procedure. Again, just checking everything's working okay. Now, we've fixed our problem in development. We tested it against realistic test data. It's now ready to get that change into version control. This is Flyway Desktop, our versioning and automation solution. We already have a project set up for the past Data Summit database, but you can see Flyway Desktop also supports Oracle, MySQL, and Postgres. Let's jump into our past Data Summit project. What this is doing is it's comparing our development database to our version control system and identifying any differences, anything that hasn't been committed to version control yet. And because this project has been set up with that clone, with that image to our test data management system, every single developer that comes in and opens this project is getting their own clone database to work against. We can see at a glance what has changed. And in this case, yeah, we know what the change was. This is definitely what we want to do. So let's go ahead and save this to disk. This is so important to capture the DDL, the create script, for the stored procedure, so you can see how that procedure changes over time. From here, we've saved it to disk. And we're ready. We want to deploy this out to our production system, right? In order to do that, we're going to generate a migration script. A migration script is giving us full control over how this change will be released through our pipeline. And it's really important to have that full control, because if you're doing automated database deployments, you want to have exact control over what will be deployed. So let's go ahead and generate the migration script. From here, if there were multiple objects, Redgate's comparison technology would take care of any dependency issues. You can also customize the script as you see fit. We also allow you to enable an option to generate a rollback script. This rollback script is a starting point in case you need to undo your changes and get back to the previous version. We'll also warn you if there's any kind of data loss or other problems. So we've made our changes. We have our version script to run this change, our undo script to reverse it if needed, and also the DDL of our stored procedure. So we have that object level history in version control, seeing how that object has changed, who changed it, when, and why. We've now committed and pushed to our repository. In this example, we're using Azure Git today, but we work with any version control system, whether that be GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, Subversion. We want to work with the tools already in your organization, the tools that your application developers are already using. As David said, if your database isn't included in this process, that's the weakest link. We want to complete that chain. So we are creating a pull request, and this pull request is going to automatically kick off a build, which is going to kick off a clone, another copy of that database, spin up instantaneously, where we can run all our tests independently on this database environment. It's going to run our code analysis checks and make sure everything's ready. We can also then come in and set up an approver to make sure we're happy with this change. Once approved, this is kicking off our CD process. We're automatically deploying to our QA environment. This is spinning up another clone. Our QA engineers now have their own complete isolated database development environment to test against. No one else is making changes to it, or there's not part of a release going through. This is their own test environment. From here, once QA is successful, we'll deploy to production. Again, we're going to actually create a change report with Flyway so we can see at a glance what's going to happen in this release. And in this case, it's pretty small, right? We just have that one change. But it's so nice to just at a glance be able to see that change and drill in and understand what's going on. And there is the stored procedure that we want to change. So if we come back to production, or if we come back to our CI/CD system, again, this is using Azure DevOps, but this could be GitHub Actions, GitLab pipelines, TeamCity, Octopus Deploy, whatever CI/CD system you're using in your organization. We've gone ahead and approved that deployment. Our deployment to production has succeeded. And we can now go back and see on SQL Monitor that deployment happened. And Monitor will continue to look and alert us if any more DTU utilization problems occur. So I really hope you enjoyed the demo of our end-to-end database DevOps solution. We started by monitoring our production systems and finding an issue. We then used Test Data Manager to provision our development databases and give our team a realistic data set to work against. We then put those changes into version control. So we had a history of every change to the object and what's going on. We generated our migration script so that we can have confidence in a repeatable, reliable process to deploy to the rest of our system out to production. The database is no longer the weakest link. This is providing you with the full value of your digital experience. And I want to take a minute right now to hear from some of our customers about their experience with Test Data Manager.
Hello everyone at PASS. I'm Ree Pandit, Senior Manager at Navy Federal Credit Union, joining you from nation's capital, Washington, D.C. The fintech world is no stranger to rigorous compliance mandates. The two common problems I have been dealing with is large data sets and, of course, our favorite topic of all, compliance. Compliance regulations such as SOX, GDPR, HIPAA are non-negotiable for any organization. A breach has a significant impact to companies' reputation, revenue, and customer trust. We needed a robust solution that could accelerate software delivery without compromising quality and security. Redgate's data masking solution played a key role, allowing us to mask sensitive customer information, including PII and PFI data, in our large database set. This tool was a game changer. It automatically identified data columns, giving us control over how to mask it, and it was truly like a beam of light in our challenging situation. As a delivery manager, presenting this solution to our compliance team and senior management was a moment of pride for me and my team. Redgate's support and innovative solution made this achievement possible.
Hello, Summit 2023 attendees. My name is James Phillips, and I am the CIO at Rev.io. And it is truly great to be back here in Seattle with all of you. I've been using Redgate tools for over 23 years now, since my very first role back as a DBA at Hart Hanks. It is truly an honor to be part of this keynote lineup. Hearing all about the exciting new TDM solution, advancements in cross-database and cloud offerings, and seeing the demo from Stephanie really shows to me the future is even brighter at Redgate. In the last 20 plus years, when I have had a data problem, they have been there to solve it, and usually before I even knew I had a problem. TDM is just another great example of that. Increasingly over the last year, the needs for having an encompassing solution for testing and masking data in an automated way, all while balancing the need to stay in compliance with the ever-changing landscape of those lovely four-letter acronyms, has been on the top of my mind as well as that of my fellow IT executives. I know I speak for most CIOs when I say our goal is to not end up fined, or in worst case, in jail for violating data privacy laws, or even end up on the news as yet another company that is going out of business for a data breach. So I must say now a big thank you to Redgate for helping to keep me out of pinstripes and off of the evening news.
I hope you enjoyed the demo of our end-to-end database DevOps solution and the importance of Test Data Manager. Now, I'd like to welcome back to the stage David to talk more about where Redgate's going next. David?
OK, thanks, Stephanie. So having seen end-to-end database DevOps in action and heard from Marie and James, hopefully you share some of our excitement about what it can do for you. But of course, we're not stopping here. So looking ahead, we're going to continue to make improvements that align to our mission of helping you get the most value out of any database anywhere. So let's skip through some of the more exciting things which are coming. I'm going to start again with any database. So we'll be extending SQL Monitor support to both Oracle and MySQL, meaning SQL Monitor will cover all four of the most popular databases. And that in turn means, given that Flyway and Test Data Manager already do that, Redgate will provide full end-to-end database DevOps support across all four of the most popular databases. So we'll be supporting you on your cross-database journey. And we're not stopping there. We'll continue to extend beyond that in both relational and NoSQL databases, such as Snowflake, Mongo, and more. So we'll keep working at pace to support you on the databases that you're using. Moving on to anywhere, in Test Data Manager, we'll be extending provisioning for DB paths, so making it even easier, moving quickly to do it, to work with services like Azure SQL DB and others. And in monitoring, as customers move to the cloud, they're often making changes to how they run their database, whether that's moving to DB paths offerings, or maybe moving to SQL Server on Linux. And customers who are managing a large part of their stack on Linux in the cloud often tell us they'd like to be able to manage SQL Monitor in the same way. So in early 2024, we'll be enabling just that, enabling Monitor itself to run on Linux. And then lastly, moving on to getting the most value. In Test Data Management, we'll be adding support for incremental images, as well as additional integrations to make it even easier to fit Test Data Manager easily into your workflow. In Flyway, we'll be adding new dashboard capabilities, allowing you to track and troubleshoot your pipelines, so bringing a whole new level of observability into your database deployment pipelines. In Monitor, we're going to be providing even better support for enterprises via improvements such as introducing a data access API, more granular role-based access control, and additional integrations. In addition, we're going to add entirely new security and auditing capabilities to help you both save time and reduce risk. And then lastly, AI and machine learning. So as we mentioned, we see huge opportunity here to help our customers using AI and ML. And we've been investing in various areas to do just that. You've seen the first fruits of those efforts with Prompt Plus, which Stephanie showed just earlier. But there's much more to come. From enhanced diagnostics and monitoring using machine learning to help DBAs solve problems faster, to synthetic data generation in the test data management space. So Redgate will be helping you to take advantage of the huge potential these technologies have to offer in your database DevOps work. So wrapping up, at Redgate, we believe in the power of end-to-end database DevOps. We're going to keep innovating to help you maximize the benefits of end-to-end database DevOps in your organizations. And we're really excited to see the impact that you'll make. And with that, I'm going to hand back to Ryan Booz, who's going to wrap up our session and set you up for the rest of the day.
Thank you, David. All right, today we have talked a lot about the changing database landscape and how the management of many database platforms will continue to impact all of our jobs, and how Redgate can help you to get the most value out of any database, anywhere. We announced the release of Test Data Manager, and we encourage you to head upstairs to room 6A at 10:15 for the launch session of the Test Data Management solution. Tomorrow, we also have Chris Ranvier will be giving us a deeper dive into Test Data Manager on the ecosystem stage across the hall outside of the sponsors. The team also spoke a lot about how important the AI space is and how it's impacting all of our jobs, even as DBAs and database developers. In fact, tomorrow's community keynote, led by Ben Weissman and Melody Zacharias, will discuss how you can prepare to ride the next wave with AIOps and ChatGPT. Many of the insights that we shared with you today came from the State of the Database Landscape report. We are delighted that we were able to share just a few of those insights here today for the first time with you. And we'll release the full set of data early, sometime in Q1 of next year. Thank you so much for coming to the Redgate Keynote today. If you'd like to learn more about anything you've heard, please head over to the Redgate booth and speak to any team member. Reach out to me, Steve, Grant, or anybody on the Redgate team to learn more. And now, it is time for you to go, connect with, and learn from the wider database community. Thank you so much for coming today.